Scientology is a religion that contains tools and methods to assist you in finding your own answers to life's questions. Your own truths about your life and you. But who are you? Are you a body? Well, let me ask you this. If you have your appendix removed, does your personality change?
Hello and welcome to a financially ruinous, brief edition of the Bargain Binge podcast. I'm Josh Brolin's best friend Dylan, and with me as always is...
Hello, I'm Evan, champion of... Fuck, I didn't think
Champion of improv?
Yeah.
Clearly. And also...
is the cinematic Titanic himself, Aaron.
Well, boys, I finally did it today. I made my return to the theater after, a month and a year, so 13 months.
13 months.
More? Wow. It was quite an experience. Wonderful.
Quite a milestone.
It was so great. I just saw Godzilla vs. Kong again, and much like a horrendous idiot, I wore my Team Godzilla t-shirt, and just really quite wonderful.
Is that specific merch from that movie?
Yes.
Okay.
From cavitycolors.com.
See, I'm on Team Godzilla, but I don't know if I can support Team Godzilla, you know?
Yeah, Team Godzilla is kind of cringe.
Oh, I didn't know I'd be put in this position. Oh, no. I didn't know I'd be outed as cringe on this episode. I mean, like, the audience can do that themselves, but my loyal co-hosts?
Yeah, betrayed. The audience figured it out on episode 1, but we have come out here to say definitively and for posterity that Dylan is cringe.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Damn it. God damn it.
The worst thing a person can be.
Well, let's talk about something that's not cringe. Let's talk about what things we recently watched. I'm hijacking your host chair, by the way.
Yeah, good.
Aaron, what have you watched recently that you would like to tell us about?
Okay, so today I watched A Simple Plan, which I had already seen, but it's a Sam Raimi film, and if you know me, Sam Raimi is my favorite director, and A Simple Plan's interesting because it has none of the Raimi-isms, none of the POV push-ins or even stuff like having Ted Raimi in it. Having accomplished Hollywood actor Ted Raimi.
If you didn't tell me that was directed by him, I would have never been able to guess. There's not a single imprint of his on the movie, which isn't like a complaint. It's still a really well-crafted movie.
Oh yeah, the only thing that kind of leads you in is that it is the steadfast earnestness of it. Because it's kind of a Coen Brothers movie. It's like a crime set in the winter in Minnesota thing, but Coen Brothers movies pretty much all near all have a hint of dark comedy and comedic wide angles and stuff. While A Simple Plan has none of that. It's just uncomfortable. It is just a upsetting movie.
Yeah.
Because it's just a guy, his brother, who has some kind of mental issue. Not a Geely style comedic one. Just he has issues with making certain connections.
Never says he needs to go to the Baywatch.
You stupid person. That television, the Baywatch.
And his brother's asshole friend just go on a trip, and then they end up swerving to avoid a passing animal, and then their dog runs off, and then they chase it into the woods, and they find an airplane, a little Cessna filled with money, and they then have to figure out what they're going to do about that fact. And it stars Bill Paxton in the lead role, but she almost never is. Yeah, he's great. Billy Bob Thornton as the brother is great. The guy who plays the friend who's in nothing is great. And yeah, it's just a very well put together movie. Raimi doesn't even use Raimi has like two guys he primarily uses as cinematographers. Neither of them worked on the movie. It's like a complete step away from what he normally does, but unlike the boring and terrible baseball movie he made in the 90s, Simple Plan is very good. It is a heart-wrenching, uncomfortable thing about how normal people can do like horrible shit for money. And I do like that a lot of media is like, oh, well, actually they were kind of had sociopath tendencies the whole time or whatever. But Bill Paxton's just a guy, and he just gets caught up in it, and then he makes choices based on his circumstances, and then it just is brutal. And I just like how genuine that is, how simple and like real it is. Just people do horrific shit for money. Normal people that like day to day you wouldn't think would do stuff like that. And that's kind of what the movie's about. It's based on a novel. It's the guy who wrote the book adapted it for the movie. There was like 8 fucking directors on it before Sam Raimi got on it. He was signed on so late in pre-production that he didn't get to location scout, and he had to use the last guy's locations amongst other things.
Wow.
That must have been bad to step into in that sense.
Yeah, and at some point it was going to be directed by Ben Stiller.
What would that have been?
I have no idea. I have no idea what that would have been.
Because this movie's like the most grim thing I've just about ever seen. But like, I don't know. Would Ben Stiller have made it like that tonally?
I no, there's no way. I don't think he can do it. Like, he is exclusively a dark comedy guy, so I feel like he would have,
Put comedic elements in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there is one Sam Raimi regular in the crew, which is Danny Elfman, who similarly to Raimi kind of does something he doesn't usually do, which is sort of step out of that, like, I guess, comfort zone
of like weird whimsical circus music.
Yeah, it's not whimsical at all. It's just like haunting and just melancholy. It's like, it's really fantastic. Like, you can still kind of tell that it's him.
Oh, yeah, you can.
But yeah, the score really, that stood out for me.
Coen Brothers movies, and I love them. Like, it's not like a dig at them. It's just different. They kind of have like this, especially like Fargo, has this kind of outside air where you're watching these like dipshits fuck up, and it's supposed to be kind of funny. And it should be. But like in this, it's just like you're watching a normal guy get caught up in this like horrific thing, and the two guys who he happened to stumble across it with are stupid assholes. And he like has to try to keep it all together. You know, you'd relate to that, Dylan.
Well, I didn't stumble into this, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, this was a hell of your own making.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a movie no one saw. It got award noms the year it came out, but it like made no money. It would be considered a bomb. Not a big one because it didn't cost much, but like, yeah, it's kind of been mostly forgotten by time, and I don't think it deserves to be. It's a really interesting movie, and has some of the best acting like I've ever seen in a movie. Bill Paxton and everybody else in the crew do great work. It isn't they don't go big or go for mumblecore. Just you just feel like you're in the room with them, and sometimes that horrifies you.
Well, clearly you like A Simple Plan the movie, but how would you rate A Simple Plan the band?
I don't feel comfortable talking about a hot subject like Simple Plan on this publicly released
Well, you mentioned
podcast.
Forgotten the Time and interesting music, so, you know, it just... popped into my head.
Well, their song is in the end credits.
Oh, like in Scooby-Doo. Much like the end of the Scooby-Doo movie, it ends with "Don't want to think about you."
I was kind of like, oh, that's a weird choice. This is kind of a sad movie. This is a little weird for the tone, but
Yeah, it has like the snow pouring down and your heart's all fucked up. You're like, oh man, and then that fucking beat hits and you're like, yeah, I'm back in it.
Run away. All right. Well, just because I want to, grab my fucking host position back, you piece of shit. Evan, what did you watch?
I watched a lot of things. I'm gonna try to mention a few without taking too long for each of them, but
You better not.
I watched for the first time ever The Rocketeer, which was a film that's Aaron was like, you gotta watch this, and
He was right.
He was right. Another film that's kind of been forgotten by time, I think, for the most part. I think it has like not like a cult following, but like I feel like certain people have sort of recognized that it's
it has a small group of people who are like, oh yeah, that was a really good movie, but that was a big box office failure.
Well, speaking of this episode, I haven't mentioned it. This episode, since we've mentioned two kind of bombs, this episode is about box office bombs. That's what we're talking about today. So, yeah.
Yes. So that fits in nicely.
Cover that?
The Rocketeer is just one of the most earnest, hopeful... It's funny because it's actually the complete opposite of A Simple Plan, where it's like super hopeful and earnest and just like it's just about a guy, a guy who flies planes for like shows. He's just an airman. He stumbles upon a experimental jetpack it's basically the MacGuffin of the film, and the FBI, along with this actor guy who's played by Timothy Dalton, and also mobsters. Like, there's all these different groups of people after this thing because it's just this like revolutionary piece of technology that's actually been made by Howard Hughes, who's also in the movie, played by Terry O'Quinn, who I quite like. But yeah, it just has really great action set pieces, and the effects are, while they don't all hold up, like, are still pretty good for the time of him just like flying around. And it all culminates in him fighting Nazis at the end, which is like, how can you not love that, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we're taking a bold take here.
It's the best stock villain in a movie. It's like, who doesn't love watching Nazis get their shit pushed in?
Yeah. And there's a great moment at the end where the mobster guys who are aiding Timothy Dalton, they don't know he's a Nazi, and that's revealed to them by Cliff Secord, who's the protagonist, and they're like, oh, wait, what? And he's like, oh, come on, guys, you don't care where the money's coming from, whatever. And then he has this great line where he's like,
I may not make an honest buck, but I'm 100% American. And I don't work for no two-bit Nazi.
And then he turns on them, and it's great. Yes, watch The Rocketeer. It's great. It's one of the... Because it's a Disney movie, directed by little-known director, but one of my personal favorites, Joe Johnston, who's done such films as Jumanji and Jurassic Park 3, which I quite like.
Yeah,
yes.
Joe Johnston is a weird love child of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, because he did special effects work on movies for both of them, like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars. He created the design for Boba Fett, and he like generally just does like art and special effects and occasionally like production design stuff. But starting with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, he became a director.
He's made a lot of great movies. He's only had a couple misses, and they're not even that bad. He was brought in to like try to save the Nutcracker in the Four Realms movie from like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't count. That's not like
that was unsavable.
I don't hold that against him.
That's not his movie.
Yeah, it's like that movie's awful, but it's like they dragged him in to try to reshoot it, and it's like, yeah, it was already a turd. October Sky, which is another
October Sky
movie about rockets. He loves rockets, I guess.
Yeah. If you want to hire somebody who has that Lucas Spielberg vibe, but you have something that's very, like, Americana-y, you call Joe Johnston and he'll do it, and it'll make okay money and get middling reviews.
But yeah, that was The Rocketeer. I'll briefly mention I also just watched Blowout for the first time.
Yes,
that movie's awesome.
It is.
Is that your first De Palma?
Yes, it is.
Welcome.
Yes, I'm definitely interested to check out his other stuff. But Blowout's really cool. It's another case of a movie that's about making movies because it centers around John Travolta, who is a sound recordist for, in his words, I think, terrible movies, for like shitty like horror B movies, and he records sounds, he puts them in, and it's a lot of like it's one of those movies where I was like, okay, it's gonna be the inciting incident, right? Is that he's out recording sounds at night and he captures the audio of a car tire blowing out and then careening off the road into a river, and that turns out to be that it was intentional, and the candidate running for president was in that car who died. So it's like he gets mixed up in all this, like there are people after that tape and trying to cover up this conspiracy, and I thought it was going to be one of those movies where the inciting incident was the only like part of the movie that focuses on the sound design gimmick, but it's not. There's like a lot of other scenes that revolve around him doing things that are related to that, which I really appreciated, that it kind of was consistently sprinkled throughout the movie, because frequently movies will just do that and then fucking forget about it completely.
Yeah, so he's recording audio for a horror movie, and he's like on a bridge at night, just like no one's out. He's just, grabbing his audio as necessary, and the scene plays out, and he's just pointing his directional microphone just everywhere.
It's a really cool scene.
Get different sounds, and that scene's cool, but the way that it really pays off is he's listening back to the tape, and he becomes obsessed, and he tries to recreate it like with images and everything, but he's sitting listening to the tape, and he's like playing out in his head where he's pointing the microphone, and that scene is just so visually well put together and edited. It's like it's one of my favorite sequences ever.
He points it at an owl, and then you see the owl that's like in the foreground of the shot, and he's in the background, and it's hooting and whatever. Like, it's a really cool scene from like a visual standpoint. But yeah, so that was really a great movie, very like noirish, and just him trying to figure out this conspiracy and getting like tied up in it. Lots like if you're interested in like physical film, and like editing on like Steambacks and shit like that, then you would find this interesting, because there's like a lot of that.
Yeah. A sound guy gets involved in a reverse Chappaquiddick.
Yeah,
where the lady in the car is the one who lives, and the politician dies drowning in the vehicle. I wonder if that was inspiring for the film in any way, like in terms of concept.
Could
be. The 2017 film Chappaquiddick.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I think they saw Jason Clarke's performance and were like, wow, we should really get John Travolta to do this.
You know what else Blowout made me realize? It made me realize, like, oh yeah, John Travolta used to be really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you forget that he wasn't always the dirt worst.
Yeah, he wasn't always in, like, dog shit.
Let me tell you something. New York is the greatest fucking city in the world.
Yeah, I know it's a lot. Let me quickly mention one more.
Oh my god.
I think
like,
it's
literally
funny.
A sentence. Give it.
It's funny. All right.
Oh yeah.
So
okay, I did want to mention this.
Over the course of like 2 or 3 months, Aaron and I have systematically watched 30-minute intervals of the Disney children's film Flora and Ulysses.
I was wondering about that. What the fuck?
About a little girl who finds a squirrel, and the squirrel has superpowers. And
yeah.
I don't know what it was about it, but like I guess it was just like, oh, we have 30 minutes to kill and we don't know what to do, so we would just throw it on. And the thing about it is we went into it thinking it was going to be like garbage in like a funny way, but it turns out it was actually just pretty enjoyable. Like, it's not like great, but
it's not good. But
it's not good, but for a children's film, it had like a lot of likable qualities. There's a lot of like slapstick humor that I thought was funny. It has characters that like actually make sense, and I think the actors are all generally doing a good job.
And it's stuffed from top to bottom with blind jokes.
Yeah, the little girl's friend is this blind kid, and they are relentless. There's like a blind joke centered around him like every other scene. It's like insane, and I feel bad, but it's like funny. It's like
well, they go out of their way to soften it because he has like he's hysterically blind, which means he's blind because he's like stressed out and like upset, and then when he's not, he won't be blind anymore.
Which may or may not be a real thing. I don't know. But it's just every other scene he's just like running into a wall or like falling out a window or something.
Or there's like an important item and this girl is like, oh, I'm gonna give it to you, and he puts out his hands for it, and then she doesn't because the scene plays out like differently than she expected, and then he's just standing there with his hands out in the background for like the entire sequence.
Yeah,
and there's some kind of funny stuff.
It's bizarre.
It's a huge improvement over a thing that I thought it would be comparable to, but it really wasn't, which was the one and only Ivan on which was unwatchable.
Which we attempted to watch, but couldn't make it through like 5 minutes.
Because we weren't 2 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this movie is just like, I would have no problem putting my kids in front of that. Which was shocking considering it's modern day Disney content that went straight to their streaming service.
Yeah, it was fine. And that's way, way better than I expected.
Yeah. Well, Evan, I know why you tried to take the host reins from me so you could go fucking buck wild with the format and just tell us about every single fucking movie you've ever seen. Just run us through your Letterboxd catalog that much like some sort of angel you've kept since you were a child. You fuck.
All right.
Well, in my conquest to be... my seeming conquest to be a weeaboo that does not like anime but will consume other Japanese content, I recently have seen the highs and the lows of low-budget Japanese cinema. Mm-hmm. The low, I watched Garo Red Requiem because, oh my god, I've seen so many fucking Japanese things recently, but
Dylan,
the director,
you've been talking forever. It's time to move on.
Yeah, we gotta get to the main. We gotta get to
pushing through here. Fuck you. Okay. So I watched Kamen Rider X Zio, which was great, and I was like, "What's the director also done?" And I watched Garo Red Requiem, which is Japan's media is a lot more fluid than America's, so like they will make a theatrical movie for any fucking TV show that comes out.
They do.
As is reflected by every Japanese director having like 50 like shows about schoolgirls on their resume. But so it's just a tokusatsu film, so special effects, general what you'd expect from that, like guy fights monsters and in the end they go into a different realm. But like, this is a theatrical release, but it is shot exactly like a television episode. Like shitty, cheap HD cameras, and the special effects are horrendous. And I've read reviews that say that like they're even worse than the TV show. But
that's
this
impressive.
was released in fucking theaters, and it was in 3D. And I've never seen like this aesthetic and thought like there was any way you could do 3D with it. So I can't even imagine what that would look like. Man, it was just so low budget, and I like the designs of the costumes and the way that the characters acted. It felt so like cringy anime kid. like acting out an anime. It was just really embarrassing. But there was a weird monster lady without limbs, and she had her boobs out, which was interesting.
So what was the name of this? What was the name of this film again?
Garo Red Requiem.
Okay, thank you.
Save that one for later.
And then, okay, I said it's the highs, but I don't really know how to feel about it. I watched Takashi Miike's Dead or Alive, which is I just wanted to note it because it's one of the most batshit fucking movies I've ever seen.
Not based on the softcore porn video game series from Japan.
No, which is weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very weird. When I saw it pop up on like my Letterboxd or whatever, because you.
Oh no, I'm not sus, sir. Please.
Yeah, I was like,
please, no, I'm not horny watching on the LB.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was wondering if you were horny watching.
Well, I mean, there's no shame in that because everyone on this goddamn service is horny watching.
Save it, Evan, for the next brief episode will be about Letterboxd. Dead or Alive, I just want to mention it's like one of the most crazy action movie, like the way that things happen, it just makes no sense. It has no regard for anything, and it's the attitude, this punk rock attitude that really makes it worth a watch. So if you're just like crazy shit, like the stuff that people pretend all Japanese media is, watch Dead or Alive, because I mean, wow, crazy. Okay. But finally, moving past our regular segment of what we've watched recently, we are going to take a moment here before we start talking about the box office bombs to ourselves theoretically construct a bomb. Aaron and I were talking recently. We were thinking, we watched the Space Jam 2 trailer, which is embarrassing. Oh, yeah. And it's Warner Brothers cramming all of the properties that they've ever made, that they've ever owned, into one movie, or to the point where you see Alex DeLarge and his droogs from A Clockwork Orange, a rated R or X movie.
Yeah, I want to note, I listened back to earlier episodes of this podcast, and in one, I state that Warner Brothers does really good work with their IP, using their IPs, and then you said, wait until Space Jam 2. Oh. And then,
yeah, that was before the trailer.
Yeah, that was before anything came out.
We have a resident psychic.
You knew this was going to be a cringe post. You knew.
Yeah, so that idea sparked in us, what if other studios attempted it? Because we've seen Disney do it with Ralph Breaks the Internet. Mm-hmm. We've seen Warner Brothers do it time and time again
50
with
times.
The Lego Batman movie,
Ready Player One,
and now Space Jam 2. Mm-hmm. What if another allegedly powerhouse movie studio, one that's been around since the dawn of cinema, what if they tried to make a movie with their properties? What if Paramount Pictures tried to make a Space Jam 2 type deal where all of the beloved characters throughout the years come together in a fun romp for the whole family?
Yeah, I'm looking at sort of a vague list of their properties, and so my thinking is that what if
well, what's your immediate thought, Evan, when you see the amount of things on this list that this major studio owns?
And the fact that you have to subtract a lot of them.
My immediate thought is like, wow, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, and a lot of them on this very short list, like maybe like 20 long, a lot of them are not truly owned by Paramount anymore.
Yeah, like they used to be.
Popeye's on here. That is now owned by Warner. Iron Man, nope.
Yep, that's Disney, baby.
Yeah, so we are looking at like just on a Wikipedia list of overall the biggest franchises. There's like 10 to 15 to work with, which is not a good start.
Right.
No, Friday the 13th, that's out the window too.
So, yeah, damn it. Is it? Yep. Yeah. I wasn't sure about that one. Yeah.
Well, actually, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe they get to have Hockey Mask Jason So he just can't have any of his character traits or anything, but I believe he can appear.
Oh, so we have Hockey Mask Jason?
Okay, we can work
Okay.
with that.
Yeah. I was going to suggest that, I haven't thought out the protagonist, but what if Jason teamed up from, vague, undefined ghosts from Paranormal Activity? What if they teamed up with, the villains in The Godfather, and that they were the villains?
Do you know who the villains in The Godfather are, Evan?
No.
I've seen
I've
The
never fucking seen
Godfather.
those
I don't know who
movies.
the villains of The Godfather are.
Well, the villains are truly the protagonists. It's, they're twisted individuals.
Okay, yeah, I
paint
guess.
in grays.
No, you're right. Just the
Right.
word villain made me picture like they beat bad guys. Like The Godfather beats up
Okay.
a villain.
Well, Evan is coming from a place of having seen none of these things, so let's break down what we're gonna need
Hey,
to
I've seen the
put
Friday
this together.
movies.
Yeah,
Okay.
a thing we can barely use, if at all.
Okay.
Evan, you're not bringing much to this pitch meeting, okay? I'm gonna need you to focus. So what we're looking at is we need to have a general reason for these characters all to come together. We need to have a protagonist, vaguely defined, part of none of these franchises. As with these movies, you have someone to carry it, and then everyone else fills in the cracks. So what does he do? He or she do? We need to develop the protagonist's ragtag team of heroes out of all of these. All of these makes it sound like there's a lot. Out of these properties. And then the antagonist team and the leader of the antagonist team, who can be one of these properties, as you generally see.
Okay.
So I did the research on this, and we already said that there's barely anything, but I also went into the individual movies that Paramount owns, like throughout all time, starting in the 1900s. So that is 120 years of stuff to work with, and I can tell you that list is primarily filled with things that are noted distribution only, and the stuff that literally every Paramount film that has survived time made before 1950 now belongs to Universal. So the Marx Brothers, who Paramount built their studio on, out of the picture.
Okay. Is Indiana Jones still owned by them?
No, they never owned them. They were distribution only. They distributed it, which it's owned by Lucasfilm, which is now owned by Disney.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Fox didn't really own Star Wars, and Paramount didn't really own Indiana Jones.
Yeah, so he's if the protagonist were to be someone from this list, it would be Indiana Jones, right? Immediately
Oh
gone.
no, it's looking like
I'm thinking-
Paramount actually owns none of the shit for Friday anymore.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, Jason's out. Let's start. How do these characters all come together? What is the proverbial serververse?
This is the serververse.
Okay. I'm thinking, what if the protagonist team was all the animated Nick characters? Like SpongeBob and whatever else.
Oh, like the Hasbro characters, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff.
Yes. And what if it was like a Jimmy Power Hour type thing where they were transported into a different reality where it's the real world,
Okay.
and then they meet whoever we can scrounge up for villains.
So maybe the Paramount universe is split into different divisions.
Oh
Yeah.
Like Space Jam 2. But Aaron, you had a good suggestion as to how these worlds combine.
Yeah, I was thinking we tie it all in. The entire point of this type of project is the just disgusting brand shit. So you make it so that the plot is that all of these beautiful universes, such as Jack Ryan film series and the fucking Naked Guns and all that shit, all of them live in their own separate universes, as you would expect. There's no crossover between these. But then Paramount, in their infinite wisdom, give us Paramount Plus, uniting all of the disparate worlds under their umbrella, which which connects all of them. But then that creates new problems. It's like, we have to interact between each other. People are going between worlds. And I'm thinking the good guys, they want to make sure that we, the viewer, they get to keep hanging out, and we, the viewer, get to watch their content together. So they want to keep Paramount Plus open. But the bad guys want to, they want power over their own domains. So they want to destroy Paramount Plus.
Can I join this team? Where do I sign up? Where's the application? So,
Yeah.
okay. No, that's a good jumping off point. Okay. Protagonist. Here we go. Here's my idea. The protagonist is a guy that works at Paramount, and he's the one that is like setting up the servers and making sure everything's in line for the app Paramount Plus right as it's about to launch. And then through some mishap in the magical machine he's using, he gets sucked in, and Evan, he, like you said, he shows up first in the Nicktoon universe, and then he makes his way through them, and through each one he starts to develop a team.
Yes. Yeah, I like that.
I like that. That sounds good. That sounds marketable.
Yeah, okay. So, well, let's try to pull some characters, because we don't want his team just to be Nicktoons, you want to give all the flavors. We're gonna... It's funny. I feel disgusting talking like I am some sort of suit for Viacom. Yeah. We want to give the consumers the flavors of all of these things.
Yeah, so we got to pick like a couple of the most notable Nicktoons to be on it. So that's like, it's got to be SpongeBob.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dora? Maybe?
Dora, probably.
Dora's got to be on the team.
Then maybe like one more.
And we also have to think about the function of these characters in a comedic sense, because no matter what, all of these types of movies kind of just bring the characters down to their most one-dimensional level and make them kind of a joke, no matter what the context they were originally in was.
Like, for example, like, they don't know how to get between, they don't know how to easily travel between the worlds and stuff, and that's where Dora comes in, because she has the map.
Oh, yes.
And you could just do the Ninja Turtles as like the third sort of...
Mm-hmm. I don't want to load up too much on the tunes, though. I think
they don't have to be Turtles. They could be live action.
I think the Ninja Turtles characters in this formula, they can be the guys that you set up at the beginning, and then they are the total ass kickers at the end.
Okay. Oh yeah, they're not going to be a part of this crew. They have their own crew. But then when shit really comes down at the end, they pop in to whoop ass.
Yeah, okay. That's good. So then, oh my god, this is also disparate. So maybe then they move to
I'm trying to
action movie universe?
Yeah, I'm trying to clump things.
Yeah, because the obvious choice is like the real world and then the animated world, but it's like that's too
few.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
too few.
Yeah.
So let's say the next one is action. The worlds are genres. Oh, see, because there's the different playlists on Paramount Plus and the different categories.
How it would be sorted on the
okay,
app.
so like children's animation is one or whatever. Or
just cartoons. Starts in cartoons because it's kind of a pleasant, like unassuming beginning, right?
Right.
Yes.
But then move into slightly darker territory, maybe, and you're in the action world.
Right, where we have Beverly Hills Cop.
I think the main one you want to pull from this is Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah.
And the only way to do him, I feel, is to make him be a jackass with a big head, much like how Lego Batman is portrayed in the Lego movies.
Right. Yeah, they also have to.
Tom Cruise will do this.
No, he wouldn't do it, but someone would do an impression of him.
Yeah, there'll be a guy who kind of looks like Tom Cruise, and they'll really emphasize that he runs weird, and often. That'll be his trait is that he's kind of a douchebag, and he weruns everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to load up too much, but I think in the action universe, we'll keep it to limit to maybe one per realm now. So they pick up Ethan Hunt and he becomes part of the crew, but in their wanderings there, they meet the Transformers. Maybe Eddie Murphy is hanging out with himself, both as his Beverly Hills Cop version and his 48 Hours version.
Okay.
These are so. Just thinking about gags here.
Beverly Hills Cop him and the other him are both in a car, and they get out to like talk to the main characters or arrest them or something, and then their car morphs into Bumblebee.
Ooh. And the Axel F theme song plays out of Bumblebee's chest.
Yes.
I was thinking it's Eddie Murphy from Beverly Hills Cop and Eddie Murphy from Coming to America. Would that make more sense?
Ooh. We could
there
maybe
could be three
have
of
an
them.
interaction
What if
later.
there's three of them?
What if they add the Eddie Murphys to their teams, and then they meet the other Eddie Murphy,
Oh, yeah.
the Prince Akeem, in the comedy world?
Yes. And then they're all like, they have a thing where they're all best friends.
No. They look like they all like relate, and then the two that are part of the group separate and are like, man, we hate that guy. We're not putting him in.
Okay. So then move on to the MTV universe. And I'm thinking that they don't add anyone from their crew here, but but they see Beavis and Butthead, and maybe they show up later for a gag. Gotta have Beavis and Butthead. But I'm thinking that at this point, there's some sort of trial they have to do to get some sort of piece of information that's going to lead them to the antagonists.
Ooh,
and that is going to be, they have to do jackass stunts.
That's good.
Like Johnny Knoxville has the information, but he won't give it to them unless he can record them doing
stunts.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And that section can just be brief. I guess since I mentioned the antagonists, who is going to be the big bad? It has to be the person. What's the final realm that they go into? I guess
that's
horror.
The evil. I guess. I don't know who would be a really good big baddie.
Khan from Star Trek would be.
That would be good.
Would not be bad.
I really want Crocodile Dundee to be in it.
I see G.I. Joe, and I'm thinking maybe Cobra Commander.
Ooh, that's the. I think that him and Megatron.
Oh yeah, Cobra Commander and Megatron team up.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. Did we have to like add Bumblebee or one of the Transformers to the good team?
No. Yeah, I think Bumblebee and I was thinking about limiting this crew, but who cares? This is going to be a piece of shit. You just want people to see things that they recognize.
Yeah.
So
want people to look and clap.
Well, Bumblebee can mostly be driven around and then occasionally does things.
He doesn't need to like contribute. He doesn't need to like speak.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's any other realms worth visiting. I don't think there are, besides horror. But yeah, you said Paranormal Activity.
It's not actually it's a specific thing, but I feel like with the way they push the property and stuff, they would 100% like just have a Star Trek world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that can be
with
a
like
world.
Cartoons.
Or it can just be sci-fi, but Star Trek's the only thing.
There's no other sci-fi, so it's just Star Trek world.
Yeah.
Star Trek world, and they meet, like maybe all the captains are hanging out, like ooh, look, the captains are hanging out. Yeah, that can just be like maybe that's where they go during the end of second act breakdown.
Oh yeah, I think they need
the bar scene.
And I think they might need the captain's spaceship to like get from A to B, and so they have.
They're at their lowest point. And they happen to be in Star Trek world. They're all in like a bar, and like Quark is like, serving up beers and whatever. But then someone offers to pilot them to the final thing, and so that makes like Captain Kirk is the Deus Ex Machina to get them to the climax.
Okay,
there we go.
Here's a question: What is this? What is our audience here? What is this rated?
Everyone, Evan.
Well, because we have them doing like
PG-13, obviously.
We have them doing like jackass stunts and stuff. So yeah, I guess it would have to be like PG-13, like a little edgy, but not like crazy.
Yeah, you do tamer Jackass stunts. Like I mean, they do somewhat tame Jackass stunts sometimes in Jackass, but you don't do the like cock shit stuff.
Yeah, no, more the television version of Jackass, less the movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, PG-13.
This needs to reach the widest possible audience, and what studios have shown us is they think that PG-13 is the answer to that.
Yes.
So that's your answer, but the only other realm I think needs to be represented is horror.
Yeah, but
because
what
Jason
do we have?
is there.
Well, yeah, I guess we can. Oh wait, no, we established we can't use him, right?
Oh no, that's right. I guess there's no
it would
horror.
just be
it
would just be
have the
Paranormal
ring.
Activity.
You have the ring.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
there's
we
no
do
way.
have the ring.
That's not enough.
Those aren't usable either.
Yeah, they're not like
No.
like what like because Paranormal Activity doesn't have like a, like a face to it. If that makes
Those
you know
are
what I
so
mean?
heavily based on aesthetics and
They're like
characters.
ghosts. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So yeah. I guess there's no more realms to add. I think.
Well,
I think we have
yeah.
enough for
I
a
think-
runtime
Because
anyway.
we got the Addams Family, which are vaguely horror-y.
And
I think it might be a good idea to separate out all the you have the action shit, and it's just like the primary few action things they have, and then you have maybe you just separate out Hasbro for brand.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't stay in these two things too long. You know.
Oh, that's
So
true.
I think we have the base ones where beats happen. Okay. We have that down. How where does the final conflict take place? Is it maybe all the worlds are like in an apocalyptic event with
They're all, like, colliding.
preferably a blue laser in the sky. They're all just kind of colliding.
Yeah, there's like wormholes opening and everyone's running in from all the different channels.
Yes, just do Endgame.
Yes.
Just do Endgame.
With Megatron sitting on a fucking stump or whatever, like Thanos does. Wait, I just want to go through real quick, because we established Cobra Commander and Megatron are the big bads. They have to get assistance from, Plankton and...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They,
Oh, no, there's the gang of... The main two are Megatron, but the B plot of the movie is have them run around, make their own group of villains throughout the worlds.
Yeah, and so that way, because you always need to have more villains than heroes, at least an equal number, but with this it's always more villains, so then they can beat up Bebop and Rocksteady and all that.
I feel like we have less good picks for villains, though.
Yeah,
it's okay,
100%.
Maybe you could get, a couple, random Star Trek villains.
Well, yeah.
You can get Khan, you can get Samara from The Ring.
You can get Bebop and Rocksteady from...
yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Mostly just ones from the things, from the properties that the protagonist characters come from.
Yeah.
For mirroring purposes. Like poetry, it should rhyme.
Right.
We've definitely put more thought into this than the executives and everything that would make this in real life.
Yeah.
So I think we deserve a paycheck for just doing this portion of the podcast. But can we estimate the budget that they would allow us and how much money it would make? And if it would even go to theaters, I guess.
I don't see a world in which they do this for under $150 million.
Yeah, no. But do you think that we could push it to 200 million?
I think we could. Ready Player One was 170, 175, and I think if we pushed this right,
if you really pushed it Endgame or whatever, or a Ready Player One.
You convince them that this is our Endgame. This is our $3 billion movie.
Right. With all of our shit in it.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and nothing has been proved in the past 4 years, if not that Viacom is a very desperate corporation.
Yeah, the main Transformers movies alone get $200 million budgets. So yeah, I think
That's
we could
true.
safely get 200 mil
two.
for this.
Yeah.
And how much would it make at the box office?
That's
nothing. Okay, I'm trying here. It has some characters. It has some characters people like.
People like SpongeBob.
People like the Transformers. People like, it's mostly the kids stuff. Most of this adult
Yeah, it's
stuff.
almost exclusively the kids stuff.
It's like mission. Like, yeah, like, oh,
It's
man.
unmarketable.
It
You're
is.
right.
It would make less than fucking Ready Player One, and that made like, I believe it made like mid fives. So it's like, I think this would make like $400 million at best. Worldwide, at best. I'm gonna go
feel
high
like that's-
threes, but
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's a little too
yeah.
optimistic.
Let's say about let's say like 350 to 75 on
Kind of like a Joss Whedon's Justice League kind of situation.
Yeah, yeah, and then and on a $200 million budget, which would be a failure.
Oh, cataclysmic, and maybe in the end that'll be our ultimate. We'll succeed in our ultimate goal of bringing down Paramount Plus. Enemy of the podcast, Paramount Plus.
Don't say. We want them to buy our idea. No, cut that out.
Yeah, edit that shit right out of here. Here, I'll cover it for you. If Paramount wants to use any of these fantastic marketable ideas that will lead to a $2 to $3 billion international gross,
bargainbingepod@gmail.com. You can send us the money in the first email.
Yeah, just hit us up with the Venmo for the budget.
Yeah, Papa's $200 million on Venmo.
Well, we got the resources. Don't worry about it. They're in Cuba, and you won't hear from us for a very long time.
Well, yeah, this kind of takes a long time to develop, man.
Hey, we gotta get it. We're doing our work here. You do yours, okay?
Yeah.
Go fucking. I don't know. Finally remaster movies that aren't on Blu-ray, even though they're classics. You fucking assholes.
Thanks,
Anyway,
Paramount.
We
Thanks,
love
Viacom.
Paramount Plus and all of its franchises.
So that brings us to our primary portion of the show, box office bombs. I mean, we made one just now.
We did.
I mean, it's easy to make one. It's hard to financially recover from one.
Yep.
So, Aaron, you're the financial expert, the accountant of cinema, as it were. Can you tell us what goes into a box office bomb? Break down the anatomy.
Okay. Well, see, a lot of people, just first and foremost, will look at a movie that cost $50 million and will go, oh, this made $80 million. That's a $30 million profit. And that is in no way the case. A movie usually has a marketing budget that is in the same ballpark as the production budget, or if the movie is cheap, way bigger than the production budget. So you have to make, like, on a bare minimum, like 2.5 times your production budget to be a profitable movie, and often more than that. Like, Blumhouse movies are made for like $7 million, and then they market them for like $50 million. So
Probably more a lot of the time, depending on what tier of Blumhouse it is.
Yeah. What level? But like a
because
Happy
you have,
Is
Death.
it Truth or Dare, or is it Invisible Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you can't make 2.5 times your $7 million budget or whatever. You have to make like $80-90 million when the theaters take their cuts, and that's a big part of it. Is that theaters take a huge cut because they're actually displaying the movies. They have to have a brick and mortar location and all this stuff. And like, yeah, they make most of their profits on concessions, but they still get sizable cuts. So it's actually pretty hard to make a real profit on movies on this scale. The like with music, though, with higher stakes because it costs more, the big hits pay for the flops. And the flops are frequent, especially recently. Budgets have ballooned. Movies didn't used to be that expensive, even with inflation. But now movies are psychotic in costs. So what happens here, just to break it down with something like an example you might know, Valerian, a city of 1,000 planets or whatever. Luc Besson uses his name and weird connections to get $180 million for a movie. Now, he, for whatever reason, decides to put 0 stars in it. This is the first problem.
Are you saying Cara Delevingne isn't a big star?
Yeah, and the weird skinny guy who looks like he's 18 from Chronicle is not a...
And also looks like Cara Delevingne, but they're romantic interests?
Yeah, and they look like siblings, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they for some reason put 0 stars in that movie. And that's a big factor. And stars used to be the be-all and end-all of movies. You would, premise... fucking any other factor didn't fucking matter practically. You put fucking John Wayne in that movie, you're good. You're done. The process is over, unless it's the worst thing anyone's ever seen. So, which some of them were, but nowadays, while it's not to that level, people are still more likely by a huge margin to watch your expensive movie if The Rock's in it, or Robert Downey Jr. if the movie's not a fucking awful piece of shit named Doolittle.
You see, now, there may be an initial release of wind.
Respect.
This is the first factor, is you have to make sure you have the right people attached. And very few movies do. It's 2. A lot of times... once the budget gets big, the studio starts to panic. And you think that might be them trying to save the movie, and it is, but they will often destroy the whole fucking thing in the process.
As is the case with our last week's episode, R.I.P.D.
Yeah, because once all this money's involved and all these investors, it becomes very stressful for these studios. And so they start fucking with it. And they will spend more money. They will double a budget to make the movie that they want to see as producers instead of the original vision.
That they think people want to see.
Yeah.
Also.
Frequently is not the case.
And
no, so many of these people are extremely out of touch, and they're stuck in their own field, and then they kind of lose sight of what people actually want, and things just kind of become products of market research. And that does not always reflect what people actually would pay to go to a theater to watch.
Yes.
Right.
And they will make a $100 million movie and then spend $40 million on reshoots to try to mold it into a more marketable product. And then the movie will make $200 million. And it's like, if you kept to the original budget, it would have made the same amount and you wouldn't have lost that much money. That's also a common factor. And now, the third thing that can happen is, well, of course, the movie can be a piece of shit, but let's leave that out. The quality, just pull it out of there.
When removing the blockage.
The thing that can happen is, even if you did everything else right, even if you brought it all the way to the end, the movie can just be marketed poorly. Like, not just because people will go for, like, oh, I barely saw this, and that's a factor, but it's not the only one. Some movies have trailers that just do not convey the marketable premise correctly to an audience, and it buries the film. Often it's because they try to make it look like a different movie, put it in the style of that to scam you as an audience member. But most audience members, for most projects, when they see that, they go, oh, it's a shitty version of that thing. Even if they don't think that out loud, it's somewhere in their brain, and they don't go fucking watch it. So, so cranking the budget, not getting the correct people involved, and for either failing to show it to people, or trying to convey a different premise or a concept that just fucks with it, are all things that can just create a box office failure, and do, like 50 times a year now.
Oh, yeah, no, the box office... Well, I mean, in current moment, literally every movie is a loss to his studio almost. Unless the studio has the... unless they know what the hell they're doing and, put it on streaming for a certain amount of money. COVID has caused a lot of market failures, but those aren't the traditional sense of bomb.
Yeah. Right. And frequently box office... The thing is that there was a middle period, a rough middle period between people buying physical media, RIP, and people...
RIPD.
D.
And people streaming movies where you can sell it to Netflix and make some back end. There was a period where there wasn't really Netflix and there wasn't really DVD anymore. And that was a rough time for movies. Guillermo del Toro talked about this with Hellboy. The first two did not do well in the theater, but they both made a ton of video money. But the video market died. And then no one was interested in a follow-up. But then in 2013, he got interested in the project again, and by then, Netflix was now a thing, and all these other back ends. So now people were like, oh, maybe we could make another Hellboy film. And, yeah. So now franchises don't die anymore, even when they fail.
Oh, no, yeah. No, there's another Ghostbusters movie coming out. What does that fucking tell you?
Yeah. Ghostbusters was a classic example of box office bomb. Fucking fucked up the budget, had to do a bunch of reshoots, but put the wrong director and writer on it. Just fucking marketed it with the worst first trailer I've ever seen.
The power of pain compels you!
And of course, at the end of all of that, the movie died.
What a surprise. Well, okay, so that's an example you gave vague details about. Is there a movie that like specifically from front to back, the details of what made it a bomb that you could say?
Oh, okay. This is an interesting one. Famous bad movie, Battlefield Earth, is very interesting because
that's a classic one.
Oh yeah, because it's both a classic example of a bomb, but also a classic example of a movie that everyone thinks is a 0 out of 10. So
Yeah.
The thing here is that movie had a weird built-in audience, and thus built-in people to fund it, which was the Church of Scientology, because
hell yes,
L. Ron Hubbard.
Shout out to LRH, baby.
Yeah, our boy, our man himself.
I've got my copy of Scientology
here at the Bargain Binge
Dianetics
podcast,
sitting on my shelf just over there, baby.
We support
I am not an
Scientology.
SP. I have never been labeled a suppressive person. Please stop contacting me. Leave my family alone. We're chill, guys.
We're good. We're good. No disrespect. Ignore. Please turn the podcast off. But yes, that was an interesting story because it had, and as you might know, a lot of famous Hollywood people are very involved in Scientology. So
what? This is the first I'm hearing of this, actually.
So you might, so getting the actors is built in, at least some of them. So that these are all elements. However, one problem is you're basing it off of bad source material.
A shit book that is just, like, for context on how LRH would write, L. Ron Hubbard. He reached a certain point in his career where he would just freestyle and just speak out loud what is happening in the book, and he would dictate it to someone who would actually write it down. So I'm not sure if this comes from that stage of his career, but it's possible. I mean, he functioned in that sort of level for a good portion of his career, and I highly recommend the series by Last Podcast on the Left about him. he is one of the all-time great grifters. And so that is the type of source material that they're working with.
Yes.
He's in the Grifters Hall of Fame with Zach Baggins.
And now...
Zach Bagans couldn't fucking wash L. Ron Hubbard's feet.
No, he couldn't. He's on the level of, like, Bob Kane, man who put the word bat and man together in no other aspect of Batman, and was credited as his sole creator for, like, 70 years.
Damn.
Fucking over Bill Finger, who, wrote the comics and drew the comics and made Batman's design and all that.
Yeah, lots of finger fucking going on.
A lot of finger fucking. Yeah, bad source material that only weird people care about. That is a flawed start to a movie. Now, the thing is that this was attempted for, like, years. And that is another common factor in a box office bomb, is development hell. Because of Hubbard's weird connections into Scientology, into LA and all that, and with Scientology and all that.
Hollywood.
Into Hollywood land.
Holly weird, more like it, huh?
Yeah, and that's clever. He was able to option the book and, like, get it out there, and talked about getting it adapted, and was, like, head in front of people since, like, the fucking early 80s. Movie doesn't come out until 2000. A movie being in development for that long is normally a bad sign. Two, the thing is taken by Franchise Pictures, which is, like, a fucking weird production house that, like, did not exist for very long. Created out of, like, various producers and stuff from other production houses. But the thing is that while this film definitely has an audience, it's a strange and niche audience. So you kind of have to still make a proper sci-fi blockbuster. And that takes money. A sci-fi blockbuster filmmaking is expensive. And
around, like, $100 million, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Even in the 90s, it would take, $70, $80, $90, $100 million. They end up tracking it out, and the budget will take like $100 million. But they end up convincing their Scientologist star, John Travolta, to take less money on the movie, to waive his $20 million fee, and they use some other scrimping to make the movie cost $75 million. But this is still a hefty amount of money to invest in something. However, Franchise Pictures... Okay, there's a system to which you can invest in movies, not just buy the movie, but just studio, project, like, here's our group of releases. Like, and it kind of mitigates your risk to be like, oh, I'm investing my $5 million into these projects. And, if I have a little cut of a hit movie, that might cover the fact that some of my money was invested into trash or whatever. But Franchise Pictures plays games that eventually cause their bankruptcy and lawsuits, where they don't actually invest the money into the movie. So that's...
Fraud, you say?
Amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But under the right circumstances, a producer could make more money with a flop than he could with a hit.
And the movie ends up... costing, there's various estimates. People think around like $40 million was actually put into the movie, which is part of the reason why the movie looks like shit.
Yeah. It's real fucking bad looking. Those sets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the sets are bad, generally gross looking. It doesn't help that every single shot is a Dutch angle for no reason.
Yeah, that's no exaggeration. It's like literally 100%.
Every single shot.
One of the things that we came up with was, which I know a lot of people will find disturbing at first, is that everything is Dutch angle. There is not a level frame in the film. And interestingly enough, when we've had certain things that have come up and we've been shooting multiple cameras and one camera has ended up with a level frame, we haven't been able to cut it in. We've had to put it in the bin.
However, this project, even with all these weird issues and stuff, could have maybe been pulled to something by a filmmaker.
George Lucas calls. The king of science fiction film. And he says, I have the director for you.
And they get a guy named Roger Christian, who has directed like a couple movies you've never heard of before in your life. But he was a second unit guy on Return of the Jedi and The Phantom Menace.
Oh. Star Wars connections that'll do it.
Yep, and he did production design set stuff on both Star Wars and Alien, which are great looking, great work.
He said he is the only person in the world that should direct your movie.
But, you to steady a ship like this, a crashing Titanic, you might want like a craftsman filmmaker. And I don't mean like a makes 10 out of 10, whatever you mean, but I mean a guy who consistently gets the movie done on time, on budget, and has made 40 movies.
Yeah, just someone who's effective.
Yeah. But they get a guy who's directed like 2 things you've never heard of and has done a lot of work on movies, and great work, but not as a director.
No.
And so the ship is being steered in that direction.
It's like you get your driver's license and then you're expected to fly a plane.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they take this guy and they put in Travolta, a famous Scientologist. And he was kind of having a weird career resurgence post his involvement with Tarantino.
There's so much that reminded me of Pulp Fiction, but in the year 3000 instead. The kind of dark humor it had and the cool kind of hip qualities that the movie had.
By all accounts, John Travolta's a really weird guy. And
really?
And
you don't just hang out at gyms at like 4 a.m. just taking pics with dudes?
Yeah, just chilling. just relaxed.
Chillaxing.
Yeah. And so, they get an inexperienced director. They get a fucking, I don't know how to refer to it, cinema queen in John Travolta. a just fucking weirdo to be the star, who, when allowed to run amok, is one of the worst actors who has ever lived.
Oh, friendly bartender!
Whatever he's doing in that movie is like, no, just please stop.
I am a bad guy.
What can white guys do for dreadlocks? Can they bring them back? And if anyone could do it, John can figure that out. We only wish the evil looked like that. We wish like all people that were evil walked down the street doing that laugh.
Wouldn't it be nice? You could just spot him, you go, oh, dreadlocks, evil.
A more experienced director, like, craftsman, fucking put the shit together guy, might have been able to just reel it in and get the right takes out, but the director was not up to the task.
Can you imagine a director, the person who works with the actors, being put on set with John Travolta, who, I mean, I'm sure he has some sort of feeling like he's doing something for the movie. He's a producer. He took a pay cut, so he feels some sort of authority.
And he's a mega star, so it's like that director doesn't want to tell him what to do. He probably I bet he didn't give him any notes. He just let him go buck wild.
I'd be fucking scared out of my mind.
Yeah. And then a big 90s thing to do. It still happens now, of course, but it was a big popular move in the 90s for some reason. Make the actual star just a fucking dude who's like in a couple movies people might have seen. With Barry Pepper, who's a good actor, but he's just a fucking guy. He's not somebody who pulls people to the movie theater, especially then. So, like, he's been in more stuff, but, like, he played a character in, not the leader even close, but he played a notable character in the Saving Private Ryan, and that's, like, all he really had when this came out, or was being put together with him.
It's not to be taken too seriously. It's just a roller coaster of good times. I really enjoyed making this film.
So, you have a nobody star, you have a villain role who is played by a fucking weirdo who you cannot control. The movie does not have the actual funds to have effects needed.
Yeah, to pull off what it's trying to.
Yeah, to pull off what it's trying to do. But it still costs enough that it's like you can't just sail by. It's not just like, oh, it costs so little money that you make money if it makes anything. Like Upgrade. a film by Lee Winnell that was made for like a couple mil and marketed for nothing. And it's like, oh, yeah, that made a little bit of money. We're fine. I threw out the quality thing earlier, but every single thing possible comes together here to produce like the worst product humanly imaginable.
Yeah, like without exaggeration, in terms of movies with real budgets, this is like up there in terms of the worst things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of bad stuff, but a lot of that stuff doesn't have like real money behind it.
Yeah,
so
it's like a small passion project, like The Room or something.
Yeah,
often lends itself to be like a movie like that.
Yeah, so in terms of anything with any amount of money, this is like so bad. It's unwatchable.
This movie was fucking thrown at a unsuspecting public. The movie opened up to $11.5 million, which is a bad number. A really, really bad number. But the fact that the movie got indescribably bad reviews and word of mouth, even by the people in Scientology, people in the cult.
Whoa, Aaron.
Sorry.
Whoa. Hey now. Hey, Tom Cruise, we can work together, buddy. We want you in Paramount Movie.
Yes, we want you to play
Jack Ryan and Ethan Hunt
and Top Gun.
Yeah,
you play all three of them.
World's greatest actor Tom Cruise and John Travolta were not able to save this film by getting their followers to go see it. And the thing is, that's an awful fucking opening weekend by any standard. But the true problem was not the opening weekend. It's that everyone fucking despised it all the way down.
Our first movie is an unholy mess named Battlefield Earth. Let's not beat around the bush. This is one of the ugliest and most incomprehensible movies I've ever seen. It's like spending 2 hours in the intergalactic town dump with a lot of people who need a bath and a trip to the dentist.
So the second weekend, the movie fell fucking almost 70% and made under $4 million.
Oh my god,
shit.
man.
And it's like, the movie is trucked at that point, which is why, like a week or two later, Warner Brothers just gives the fuck up on the movie, which they had been decided to distribute. They didn't, make it, but they put it out there for you. And so they just massively cut the amount of screens. The thing was playing on almost 3,000 screens. It is playing on 600.
Whoa. Yeah, that is, the widest of releases.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, it was supposed to be a mid-level sci-fi blockbuster. And instead, it was this. So, yeah, the movie just fucking dive bombs out of existence because no one fucking likes it. And then, and cutting the theaters makes it even worse because it's like, even if you wanted to look at it, now my nearest 2 theaters don't play it anymore. I gotta go drive over here to look at this. Even if you're gonna watch it ironically, that's a lot of effort.
Yeah. I'm not driving to Cleveland for that shit.
That movie, and then due to weird financial maneuvering done by Franchise Pictures, closes down eventually. It takes years because that's how stuff like that works, and they put out a bunch more movies before the end, but They had their reputation destroyed by the whole thing. They were sued repeatedly, and because it was maintained that they lied about the movie costing $75 million, and you could kind of see that just by looking at it.
Yeah, it's not exactly covered up very well.
Yeah, allegedly lied, or whatever.
Alleged.
Alleged. And it was alleged by the people suing them that they took the money and put into films they thought would be more financially viable. So yeah, that's a front to back, from production hell to not getting the right people to be involved in the movie, to having the production destroyed by financial issues and the wrong and weird actor issues and all that.
No marketability.
No marketability, all the way to the movie releasing. And, if it was good at all, could have made like 50 million or 60 million off that, opening weekend. But instead it had a final gross of under $30 million. So yeah, word of mouth, making sure your production isn't a fucking mess, getting a competent, well, not it's probably fine, but
Maybe
a guy
just
who can
don't
steer
involve
the
yourself
ship.
in Scientology.
Yeah.
I think that's a good.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a good base.
I disagree. I disagree, sir.
Okay.
I disagree. I have so many thetans running through my fucking bloodstream. You would not believe what my results were when I head down.
What is that? I don't know anything about science.
Evan,
is that like midichlorians or like what?
Yes,
yes,
it is literally midichlorians.
That's hilarious.
But real.
Yeah.
But real life.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, I don't know jack shit about Scientology.
Oh no, don't! I'll get you a copy of Dianetics. It's very detailed. It's technical, but at a certain point, you get it, man. You get it.
Okay. At a certain point, you surrender your you surrender yourself to it, and and just become the devout.
Yeah, like a good song or a good movie. You just let it all go and just
sounds great. Sounds like a great Sunday afternoon. What's it called?
I think the Paramount Plus movie is just as lazy as it
Just
should
as lazy
be.
as possible? Okay.
Yeah.
Like the Emoji Movie?
Well, okay. See, the thing is, I said a number earlier, but that number is based on, like, people like franchise and show up for franchise, and that's a reasonable thing to make a number off of, but the movie's dog shit. So, the number would probably be a little lower, because people would, maybe show up for opening weekend, just because, I like Transformers, I like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but when they see the product and the shilling,
that's going to be some Battlefield Earth drop off in the second week.
It needs to be a walking, talking ad like the Emoji Movie.
Yeah, the Emoji Movie was profitable, though.
Like, they need to highlight features of their app or something that's different from other streaming services.
Can the hero guy, who works on the app, when he's in the world, he's like, oh, you guys got like weird powers and like all this stuff. It's like, I'm just like a guy. But then at the end, he shoots out like the stars from the Paramount logo.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's his power.
Yeah, I think that's the scene I'm going to describe to my new best friend, Josh Brolin, who recently came into my place of work, and I held the door for him, and I said, have a good evening. So, I mean, I'm making connections.
Yeah.
I think I can get the money behind this, so I think we're going places. I think the Southwest is going to rise, and we're going to create a whole entire new industry boom with this movie,
Paramount Plus movie,
and maybe not be the bomb that I thought it could be to overtake John Carter.
Well, you can take the hit characters from Paramount Plus movie. Like, you know, people might attach themselves to these weird new characters like SpongeBob and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, make spin-offs.
Make spin-offs in like a cinematic universe.
We can only pray. But until that happens, I'm going to leave you here with this clip of next week's show.
And there's a family bin that's 5 and up. And the $5 ones have stickers on it. So I'm going to just pull $5. And it's Barney's Great Adventure, the movie.
Hopefully you tune in for that. But you can find us on all of your favorite podcatchers at bargainbingepod.com. Give us a 5-star rating on your podcatcher of choice, but especially Apple Podcasts, and give us the SEO that we need. That, damn it, we deserve. Follow us at Bargain Binge Pod on Twitter. And that's also our on Instagram that we have now. So check out our Instagram as well. And if you PayPal us, we will send you a sticker. That's right. If you PayPal us $5 to bargainbingepod@gmail.com with your mailing address, we will send you a sticker with art of the podcast. And that, once again, is BARGAINBINGE pod@gmail.com. You can also get t-shirts of various designs at our Teespring, and you can just search Bargain Binge Podcast on there. I'm trying to set up a URL at the moment, but we no shortcuts at the moment, so just look us up on Teespring. And that'll do it for our regular plugs. But until next time, I've been Dylan.
I've been Aaron.
I've been Evan. Go out proudly into the world and make the worst bomb you possibly can. That's what I want to see.
Make the biggest fucking piece of shit. Take 20 years to make it cringe. Put the worst people you've ever met in the starring roles. And just see what you can do. I guess that's just the premise of the producers, but, you know.
Yeah.
That's us signing off.
Goodbye.
See ya. Okay, the cinematographer shot Hell or High Water, so I can't throw shade on him.
Yeah, let's do some shit just botched.
Fantastically.
But
shot,
Giles Nutkins? That's, what a name, man.
That's unfortunate.
What a name.
Oh, fuck, that's rough.
Nutkins.
I'm sorry, Niles. I'm sorry that someone did that to you.
Yeah.
At birth, no less.